Well,
Here we
welcome,
are.
welcome, welcome, everybody. Great to have you guys on board. It is wunderbar to have you here. I just have to say that where are we here? I'm just looking for the names here. It's great to have you guys on board. Allison, I see you're here. Guys, if you can just type in where you're from. Would love to hear that. Where you're from. If we got any international people, let us know. Oh, Kate Kern's on board. Nicole Perry, love it. Nat, good to see you guys on board here. So I just wanted to just type it in so we can see in the chat where you're from, who's going on, where you've been. Don't be shy. We'd love to see this. It's really, really important that we can have a communication with you.
Look at Nicole Perry's long hair. Wow, that's grown.
Oh,
Look how long
what?
that hair's grown. That's fantastic. Good job. You must be
Good.
using
Well,
great
hey,
shampoo,
Nicole,
Nicole.
check it out. We're getting
Yeah,
close to one another here.
we're getting long too. Yeah. Hey, put your cameras on if you're coming into the webinar. You can't hang out behind a blank screen. That's like walking into a room with a bag on your head. We know that you're there, even though we can't see you. We still know that you're there. Just because you can't see us doesn't mean we can't see you. So put your cameras on if you're in the room, and otherwise we know where you live as well. We'll come and get you. Put the cameras on.
And so, listen, I know you guys are here and I know you guys are interested in what's going on. And it is going to be about education. So, we got T Spot Buffalo is on the house. Yeah, baby. It's all good to see you. Listen, so if there is something in education where you're saying, look at this, if I could get this problem solved, or if this is about something I need to do. Hey, how you doing, love? If that's there, just type that in because it'd be nice. See, Nicole's got Demmer. Missed you guys. We miss you too. She says it's client is processing, so I'll be working on that as we go. So anyway, it's great to have you guys on board. Jennifer from Tricoci Salons, we've done work there. Love that team. It's awesome to have you guys here. Good one. So just gonna get just a couple minutes more. So while we've got some people entering, as you know, sometimes it's hard to break away and get our peeps organized in the salon, etc., especially if you're breaking away. So one more time, I see we've got and I hope I pronounce this from am I pronouncing this right? Jalia, am I pronouncing that right? If not, it's Mrs. Smith. There we go. That's awesome. I got it right. That's a nice one. So
From right there in Phoenix as well, Chris, just down the
yeah,
road from you.
yeah, and we've got a an event that we're going to be doing. What is it in the week, 2 weeks
Two
time,
weeks'
Mr.
time?
Moody? Chris
Two
Camp is
weeks.
coming up.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So if any of you, I think we're just about full, but if anybody wants to come, and Jaylee, if you're not registered and you want to be there for that, just let us know. I'm sure we can squeeze another chair in. But
Yeah, good job. So look, everybody, welcome, welcome. Let's crack on because we've got so much to share with you and we don't want to take up too much of your time. Promise this webinar will not be much more than 5 or 6 hours of your time, I promise. And then we'll get you back to it quickly and what have you. No, honestly, about 40 minutes or so. But look, welcome. Look, in this webinar, we've been noticing that, there's this huge sea of educators out there at the moment. Everybody's kind of doing some education, which is really good. Lots of fantastic education out there to be shared and to take part on, but it kind of makes it a little difficult if you want your voice to be heard and you've got something that you want to do. So really, how can we make our voice heard? How can we stand out in this sea of educators? So we want to share with you 3 very simple but very powerful techniques and methods that you can implement into a class tomorrow, into a team meeting, just into a conversation with your team. You could even implement it into a conversation with your clients, quite frankly. So we're going to share with you these 3 little tools, if you like, that you can use. What we also want to do is we want to share with you a new program that Chris and I are doing. It's called Teach and Lead. We want to share with you about that as well. But look, it's kind of a give and take. So we'll give you some information about how you can use this in your classes, and you'll give us a little time and attention so we can tell you about some of the stuff that we're doing as well. So it's just like a really good exchange. Yep, all good.
yeah, and I loved what you said there, Mr. Moody, about the being in a sea of educators that are out there. And so I know that there's people out there that you might know us. I know there's people on here who we've had great conversations with, and some who we've even coached in the past. But for those people who don't know us, and just so you know a little bit about who we are, Chris and I have spent about the last 25 or 30 years really studying adult education. And the reality is that, as we went along, some of you may be the same, whether it's behind the chair in the school, in the salon, or whatever, is that we tend to do the things that we've seen done. So we tend to teach, and I want you to know that we've went through all of the problems that you've had, and what we've learned along the way is, number one, how to correct some of those problems, and then secondly, and I think the most important thing is that we've systematized all of the things that you can do. So we have easy formulas that you can use to correct patterns that you've had in the past and create new habits of teaching that really take you on to success. And I know that some of you know us, we might have been there before, but if I just wanted to bring this up in just a second here, we're going to bring up just a client list that we have. And this is but a few of the people that we've helped to train and help to lead on to the systems, because we had too much of a pack in here, and you couldn't read any of them. So we've narrowed it down, some of the two. And I think those from Tricoci, you'll see that you're on there. T-Spa, the groups are on there already. So, I mean, that's the whole point behind what we're done. So the idea that we talk tonight, and you heard Mr. Moody talk about that educators tend to be, we've been swimming in seas of educators. And I want to just take you back just for a moment, what it was like for Chris and I when we started off. And I'm a little bit longer in the tooth, a bit more gray in the beard and so on, and been around for a few more decades than he has. But the reality was, I'm from Canada, and the reality was, when it came to education at the time when I started, it was really easy because, quite frankly, I was the only one in our province. So I'm going to say there was maybe two or three other educators in the whole province of Canada. They're like a state. And there was only two or three of us in the whole province that did education. And that really led us to market to be out there, that it's different now. I'm sure some of you might be in an environment where just in your locale, in your salon or wherever, you might have just two people in your salon that are also educators. So how the hell do you stand out in this sea? And Chris and I have been talking about this for a long time. And the point that we've noticed is that people tend to teach the way that they were taught. And I just want you to type that into the chat bar. Just type in teach taught. And because the reality behind that is, I was the same way. I went to people who taught me, and then I tended to teach exactly the same way. I know Mr. Moody and I have talked about it. It's been the same way with them. And we tend to do it the same way. And always what happened is, even when you're looking at people nowadays, some of the big name people that you're doing and you're watching on the stages, and if you take a look at it, they tend to teach the way they were taught, which means that they talk about feeling, about here's how I feel about this, which is hard to translate, or they tell us everything that they're doing, and there's no interaction. So the reality is, if you want true transformative teaching, instead of talking about just telling and how you feel about something, if you can teach by really get into the what, where, why, and how in a conversation, that's where you can, number one, start the process for understanding, and then number two, be able to get them to interact with what you're saying by asking them questions, etc. And that's where the discovery comes from. So if you want true transformative teaching, you have to learn how is it that you can, number one, tell where you're actually getting your message across so people understand it without just talking about feeling. And then how do you ask questions to make it to it's a true discovery? So here's a couple of people that have been with us in the past, and they've been a part of our group. And we're going to bring up Terry and Sammy. Some of you guys may know these people. This is Terry Heath, and she's a salon owner, part-time educator, occasional regional classes. What she had been, she was feeling frustrated and unfulfilled. And here's what, spending time with us, that is on our coaching coaching programs, new teeth. So I'm just trying to test driving them now. She is the new regional education distributor, or just director, I should say, and she's organizing brand education and events for a whole team of educators just by helping her get into systems that we can do. And so the idea is, that's what we want to be able to do, is we can help you be different, to stand out. And And the point that I want to bring out to you is we've got a bonus gift. So if you type in bonus just at the in there, and I love that you guys are typing this, just type in bonus. And if you want the bonus, say I want bonus, or just type in bonus at the end. And then we will, at the end of the program, we've got a bonus gift for you. So um, I want first, here's a nugget that we want to give you is, and this is the whole point on here is we want to be able to, yes, we're going to talk a bit about a great program we got to come up, but we want to make sure that you get nuggets out of this. So here's the reality is that when you think back to what we talked about earlier, when it comes to people just tell, 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 tell. And we all know that your brain tunes out after so long. You can take in about 10 minutes of information, and unless you have a shift in your brain or somebody interrupts the pattern of the flow of information, you're going to forget about 90% of the information that you've been learning. So the idea is teach something for 10 minutes, give them a little break and get them to do something and keep alternating that. So for instance, if you can imagine a waveform that's going up and down, and as the waveform goes up, that's where you're teaching. Where the waveform comes down, that's where you might ask them a question, get them to turn and discuss something. Then you do that, and then where the waveform comes up again, now you teach another little nugget. And then on the way down, you might do something else where you get them just to repeat out loud what you've just said. And then the waveform goes up, you teach, and then you get them to do something. So what this does is it really interrupts the data stream that is going in, and that allows them to digest. And here's the other intricate part to this. Every time that you get them to play, you don't have to work so hard by just telling all the time. So it creates a pattern where you can stop, rethink where you're going to go. And if you're like me, it could actually make me sound quasi-intelligent. So the idea is to remember, and I want you to write this down. If you want to break the data stream, then you have to do one of a few things, which might be after 10 minutes, ask a question, get them to write something down, get them to repeat something, or get them just to do something in an exercise or in a technique or whatever. So that's the things that you want to do, is to get them to do one of those things. And we'll always say getting to do something is actually one of the best things that breaks that data stream.
And so let's think about, what we've been thinking about there as well. So I'm going to get Lee to put me on full screen so you can see the whole thing. So the first thing that Chris is telling us about is this 10-minute rule, this 10-minute rule, because that's how much you've got. You've got 10 minutes before somebody needs to download and buffer off. So any content that you're going to present, how can you present it in 10-minute packets? If it's really super engaging, you might have a few more minutes than that as well. But think, what can you deliver in 10-minute packets before you create some kind of state change? Some kind of what? Well, let's talk about that as well, because here's a great little tool that Chris and I want to share with you that you can implement into your delivery that will just keep the energy up, keep it going, and stop this flow of data all the time. So first of all, you got how many minutes to deliver your content? Type it in there for me if you can, because you can't talk to us on this, so we would normally be asking you questions, but the only way to manage a group of people online like this is to do it. Yeah, good. Thanks, Julia, Jennifer, Kate. Good. Thanks, Nat. Nat, are you up at, is it 3 a.m. are you in Australia? Did you call in from Australia? It's like 3 a.m. or something crazy for you. Is that you? Yeah. Oh my God, Natalie, wow. Jeez, that's like dedication. 3 a.m. Wow. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to make it worth your while, Natalie. Fantastic. Good job. All right. So yeah, you got 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, here's what you're going to do. You're going to deliver some information. You're going to deliver information in that 10 minutes. When the 10 minutes is up, then you're going to ask questions based on that information. But remember, we're not going to be talking about repeating questions. Okay, who can tell me what I said? Who can tell me what this is? Who can tell me what that is? You can really tell kind of certain types of educators. They'll say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull the hair up to the top, and then we're going to move it to the left. Move it to the where? To the left. And it kind of like is so you want to kind of ask questions that the answer is not really obvious. Make sure that the answer is being given in the info that you're sharing with them, but it's not necessarily dead obvious. So you don't want to be thinking about, you don't want to be putting out what we call repeating questions. You want to be putting out what we call thinking questions. So kind of, push somebody a little bit. When you've got some good questions back from that information, the next thing we're going to get you to do is to review. So review what's been learned, review the answers to those questions, review the discoveries. So for instance, it could be we're going to lift the hair up and we're going to pull it over to the left. Okay, so the hair is going to go in which direction, and where's the length going to remain? It's the opposite direction to what? So they have to think about what the answer is. Does that make sense? And then you review that information. Just you review it yourself as an educator. Go through it really, really quick. Once you've done that, you're ready to deliver some more information. Is this making sense? You cool, everybody? You getting it? So how many components to the little wheel? Type it in there. How many components to the little wheel? Good, fantastic. Yeah, 3 components to the little wheel. So we give some information, we ask a question such as how many components, and then we review the fact that there are 3 components to this wheel. You see what we did there? Info, question, review. Remember, you've got 10 minutes to give some information out. You can intersperse that 10 minutes with that little tool, and I promise it'll keep your data fresh, keep your learners engaged, and it'll stop them dying from the sound of your voice. Is this making sense so far, my friends? Yeah? Give me a make sense, give me a yes, give me a little comment in the chat bar to see what's going off. Kate Curran gives 2 hands, which is pretty good because she's only got 1 hand free. She was walking to get coffee, if you noticed on the morning. We saw her on a camera and that, but still, that's really good. So just Kate so far. She's the only one that seems interested in that. What about anybody else? Anybody else interested in it? Oh, good. Nat is fantastic. Cheers, Nat. That's good. Well, look, I'll tell you somebody else who was really interested in that as well. We worked with a couple of artists just recently. Evie Rivera is an amazing artist based in Chicago that we've been working with for the last 3 years. I'm going to show you a little bit of information about Evie. She's worked with us on a couple of programs. And again, Evie was kind of like drowning, because she felt that she didn't have like a really high profile. She felt that she wasn't kind of like a superstar. She wasn't massive on social media, but what she did have was a huge amount of knowledge and information about curly hair. So she was taking whatever classes were offered for her. And to be honest, I know this sounds like cruel, but she was kind of like waiting for scraps to fall from the table. So some big superstar would come along, they'd be asked to do the work. If they couldn't do it, then it would fall off the table and Evie would wait to try and pick it up, which Chris and I thought was a bit of a shame because Evie had got massive potential as a really experienced educator. She had the skills, she just couldn't stand out. So she never really knew where her next class was coming from. But after working with Chris and Chris, who are those guys, by the way? Does anybody know who they are? Anyway, but after working with those guys, she's now become recognized as a curl specialist, a texture specialist, a specialist with ethnic hair. And now she's been kind of picked to do certain classes. And it means that she can now cherry pick her classes. She doesn't have to wait for what comes along. She's recently gone over to Dubai. She's been doing a really big event, a fashion event in Dubai, where she's been working with a team of session stylists over there, teaching them how to do ethnic and various diversities of hair. And she's also been doing some work in Paris Fashion Week as well, which is pretty cool with a girl from Chicago. So again, did some work with us, a great educator, just needed to stand out in a sea of noise, and there she's doing what she's doing. Sam was kind of in a same kind of situation, an amazing haircutter, really talented, very passionate, got some real skills, especially when it comes to cutting hair above the shoulders, which is a real rarity these days in this world of long hair and what have you. But she was kind of just drowning in this kind of quagmire of product knowledge classes, because that's all she could get hold of. Again, she just didn't feel like she was being heard. So any class that was worth having was being sucked up by people who, quite frankly, they may have been less talented, but they were just being heard a little bit more. But again, she spent time with us. She's been on a previous program for 2 years with us. And during that time, she's gone from strength to strength. And now she's doing quite high profile classes, and she's working with brands at an international flagship academy over in New York, and she's really kind of making a big impact. Again, cherry picking the classes that she wants, working with international students, and really achieving her full potential. Pretty cool stuff. So look, again, I just want you to hang out till the end. Thanks for being with us, but we have got something that we want to share with you right at the end of the webinar in a few more minutes time, that's going to help you with some of this stuff as well. Good job. So we noticed that this was happening. These people were getting frustrated, and that's when we knew that there was a need for Teach and Lead. And this is the new program that Chris and I wanted to talk to you about. It's called Teach and Lead. And we call it Teach and Lead because what we want you to be able to do is become a leader in your classroom, a leader in your education environment. We want you to lead your learners to transformation, and we want you to be able to lead your career to where you want it to be in the world of education. So you're not just waiting for scraps to fall from the table or doing any class that's thrown your way. We want you to be able to navigate and choose the classes and the kind of events that you want to work on so that you can give your best self and feel your most fulfilled. We want you to leave your mark. Chris and I are getting on in years now. We both turned 30. Just recently, we both turned 30. Well, about 40 years ago, but in that time now, we're thinking about legacy and we're thinking about leaving a mark. And that's what we want you to be able to do. We want you to leave a mark on the people that you work with, the people that you teach. So Teach and Lead is not like a lot of other programs that are out there at the moment. There's no pre-recording. There's no downloadable things where you work through modules and you hit complete and it gives you the next module. There's nothing like that. It's this. So you get Chris and myself live online at the other end of a Zoom call. The only difference is your microphone is open, your camera is on, your stuff is all around you, and you have conversations with Chris and I following a curriculum that gets you results in a matter of hours, not in a matter of months. So you'll see changes at the end of 90 minutes, not just at the end of 12 months. But you'll have chance to talk with us as if you were in the same room. So there's nothing pre-recorded, there's nothing downloadable. It's just down and dirty with Chris and I for an hour a week or so. That's really what Teach and Lead is all about. Sound good so far? Great stuff. So look, Chris, let's get on to nugget number 2, something else that we want to share with you, number 2. And we're kind of like contradicting ourselves here, because the biggest problem with these webinars is it's exactly what Chris and I don't want to do, which is all the talking. And right now we're doing all the talking, but the only reason for that is because, this is being recorded and we're going to do something else with it. So we're limited as to how much interaction we can get. But Chris and I hate doing all the talking. Reason number 1 is it's a really ineffective way for people to learn by listening to you talk. Reason number 2, it's really hard work, and Chris and I hate doing hard work. We'd much rather you did it. And so here's the second nugget. You've got to stop talking. You've got to stop talking in your classes, and you've got to hand over and let them talk. And the ultimate aim, where you've reached nirvana, is where your learners are doing more talking than you. If you're in a situation where you can ask the kind of question, a question that's 5 words long, but elicits a 50-word answer, and that answer then leads to something else, another discovery, you need to stop talking, get out of talking, and ask the kind of questions that elicit talking from your learners. In fact, if you can get your learners teaching some of the class, and I know that sounds weird, but we'll share with you how to do that and how to manage that. If you can get the learners teaching your class, the more effective it's going to be. And more importantly, the more it's going to stand out from the crowd. Because your learners go to classes, even now in 2024, and they sit down and the educator says, "Hi, hello, how are you? This is where the fire escape is. This is where the toilets are," because I know you're not bright enough to figure out where the toilets are by yourself. So I'll give you all that. Here's my agenda that I put together. And here is my list of awards and all the good things I do. Now sit still for 3 hours while I show you a really cool haircut or a really cool color. And I talk at you for 3 hours. That still happens. It still happens now. But if you can do something different, if you can switch that on its head, get them doing the talking, get them teaching each other by what they know, we'll share with you how, we'll show you how to manage it. We don't have time in 40 minutes, but we will show you how to do that. Then you're going to change their perception of education. You're going to get to a point where they walk away from the class having learned loads and loads of stuff, but they've got no idea that they learned it from you. And that's your nirvana. You want your learners to walk away from a class, remember everything that they learned, but kind of not remember too much about you. That's when you know you're at Zen. Is this making sense, my friends? So one of the ways that we can do that is we can deliver our information in questions. We can talk in questions. When you're delivering some content, Chris and I want you to think about Jeopardy. What question could I ask that would stimulate a conversation about this topic? Albert Einstein once said that most people ask questions that are designed to figure out what people don't know, where really the best questions are designed to figure out what people do know. As a teacher, your questions should elicit all the information that a learner has. And then that's going to leave behind, what's it going to leave behind? Put it in the chat bar for me. Begins with G and ends with apps. What's it going to leave behind? It's going to leave behind gaps. It's the gaps that are the golden nuggets that you fill in. You don't need 20 words. You might only need 2 or 3 words to fill in those essential gaps. What question can I ask that leads somebody to the answer that they're looking for? Write this down, get your notepad out, write it down. You ready? Get ready to write it down. Information discovered is more powerful than information given. Information discovered is more powerful than information given. What can you do to have your learners discover the information for themselves?
Mr. Moody, I love what you were just saying there, and I want to talk about what Teach and Lead really is about as well. Is it's not only just an educational tool that we help people with on how to teach, but we find that Chris and I have always found that everything that we've learned in there is a powerful life lesson as well. And the thing that always comes up when we talk about this, that I always figured that the yeah but factor rears its ugly head. The yeah but factor is, yeah, but I tried this once and I tried to ask a question and it didn't work. And we all know that in order, just like the haircut you did the first time, the balayage you did the first time, the time you tried to sell something the first time and it didn't quite work right, we have to practice it and do it. But here's the point. This is where the yeah but factor we hear all the time when people will say to us, yeah, but I tried that once before and my audience just didn't respond. And so therefore I just stopped doing it. Well, here's the reality is that it's how you ask those questions as well. For instance, if you just throw a question out to an audience and you just say to them, hey, XYZ, what do you think about XYZ? The reality is that, all of us know that our society is based on being judged, and none of us want to be judged by our peers. And if they're in the room or like you are right in here, some of you might have just said, well, I'm not going to write that down because it might have been the wrong answer. And the reality is what we're just trying to do is invoke what we call peer-to-peer discussions. And that's where you'll get all of the information that they do know. Now, here's the reality. We do know that there's risk involved when people will say out loud what their feeling are, their opinion is, their knowledge is, in a group of people, whether that's in 2 people that they have within their salon, or it might be in a room of 10, 20, 30 people, or 500. They'll say there's too much risk involved, therefore I will not play. But here's how you get over that. I want you to just write this down, write the word write down. Because the first step that you want to do is instead of asking them a question, you might ask a question and you can do it in a simple term. Here's another way that you can make sure that you get, even in the driest of audiences, you can get people to play along and you get them to write. So just write down. Yeah, thank you for putting that, Kate. And now that was my bad. I didn't say it the right way. It's WRITE. So if you can put down write and then write down write and then pair and then share. And that's the whole way that you can get the driest of audiences in order to play along. So what you can do is ask them a question, but get them to write it down and say, and just do it. Write down, you've got 30 seconds, write it down. And then you say, okay, good. Now turn to the person beside you or in a group of two or three or whatever. And I want you to just pair up with two or three people. And then I want you to just share what you wrote down. Now, there's a couple things that happen here. Number one is they're sharing it out loud and they'll get a response back. And their response might be, wow, that was an amazing, I never thought about that. That's a really good one. Now their confidence goes up and the risk starts to go down and they're more willing to share that out loud. And then the second part that happens is it's a rehearsal. If you've ever noticed and you said something out loud, somebody asked a question and you went on, as I might do, it's coming off of my brain and I kind of ramble. But if I had a chance to rehearse it and say it out loud, now I know they like it. Now I know that it's a good response. My confidence goes up. I've already rehearsed it. And the second time it comes out better. I get it out in fewer words and it even makes me sound more intelligent. So here, that's the way that you can use those questions to get even the driest of audiences to be able to play along in the room, etc. Okay, so the idea behind that. So those, all of those kind of things that we're talking about, the nuggets that we're giving you, those are the things that we want to talk about in Teach and Lead, and there's tons and tons more. Imagine a 6-month program where you have constant access to us all the time and being able to practice all the things that you're doing. So I'm sure you're wondering, well, who is it for? And I think it's got a good representation in the room right now. I think if you teach in a salon, and you might be for one or two or many in the salon you're teaching to, or if you're in a school or you've got an academy and you need to know how to become a better educator, because we know that right now in schools and our audiences that are younger in the salon, etc., they want quick and fast information. They don't want to be talked to. They want to be able to be informed and they want to be able to participate rather than just swiping left or up and down to get different information. And Chris and I always believe in this, is that even if you're on a stage, and if you're a person that's on a stage, we've had people that have been on stages that have been high profile people that think, I don't need any more information because, and yet what they're tending to do, and Chris and I always call it telling and yelling, is if you're on a stage and you've ever been to a program where you've seen people on stage, notable people, and they tend to tell. And when they want to make emphasis, they tend to yell out the same thing again so that hopefully it will retain better. The whole point is whatever stage size that you have, whether it's one or many, the reality is the more that you can use questions, more that you can use the techniques that we do to help them discover the answer on their own. And that's what really helps to transform and really to transform their lives. So, and I know Chris said it, I'm going to say it in again, is that we in this program, if you'll find every time in every program that we do, every session that we do, in that hour, you'll have things that will take away that you can implement immediately rather than waiting for an end of course or not to have somebody that's helped to coach you along and how to do it so you can do it successfully. So, and just a second here, I'm going to bring up just Molly and Kim's testimonial here. These are things that we've had on other people that have been in our program. And this is Molly gets in here. And so she's been, she's a stylist. She's a part-time educator. She was literally struggling with small classes, and she really couldn't help to find her niche. And she was working with us, and now she is a brand ambassador and a brand artist. She's been booked in schools and salons, and she is now become the go-to educator for creative short hair classes as well. And the whole point behind it is how do we help get people to elevate and level up with all of their people. The next one that we have coming up here, and I absolutely, we love all our people. This person has been with us, and I think she was with us for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and she's coming to Chris Camp in just a couple of weeks. She is an education junkie, but the reality is that she was doing the same classes over and over and could not break the cycle. And she was also having a harder time getting booked, particularly because in her in her session that she was having, she had a change in leadership positions and they literally forgot about her. And we worked with her, and now she's constantly booked. She's been doing interactive and energizing classes within the salons, and her book is constantly full, etc. So, those are the kind of things that we want to offer to people, whether it's salon, the stage, or schools. How can we help you to level up, etc. So.
Yeah, and the other thing, somebody else I want to talk about on that, Chris, as well, and it kind of goes into that little nugget that you were mentioning before about engagement and what have you. And here's something else I want you to write down. Write down if you want the secret to engagement. Should we give them the secret to engagement?
I think that's a good idea.
Should we? It's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty valuable.
No, yeah. Well, I don't think that we should give it away then.
All right. Well, this person got the secret to engagement. Sammy was again kind of a freelancer, part-time educator. She was frustrated because she had a lack of opportunities. And again, as a designer and a haircutting specialist, she did do a bit of all-round work, but she just felt she was competing in a crowded market. So she came on a coaching program with us. She spent a few months with us, and this has really allowed her to focus and harness what she does, her own particular style. One of Sammy's issues was that she had an impression of herself that she had a kind of a difficult personality, or she was a little bit too not really what the market was looking for, and she'd been coached probably not in the best way, really. So she'd been coached into all the things you should stop doing rather than being coached into all the things that you should do. So she had a real kind of mixed up self-image of herself, really, and her confidence was at an all-time low. But, working with Chris and I, we've really been able to show her what her greatest attributes are, and that there's a whole market of people that want her kind of education and the way that she delivers it. So she's founded something now called Miss Education, which is a bespoke education platform where she'll go into salons and do bespoke education for people. But she also has this online platform now where people can go and put their own education packages together. And she's building a community of people that are coming back time and time again and want her as their go-to coach and an educator and what have you going on there as well. So again, she was just kind of like drowning in this sea of sameness, but now she's doing something slightly different and what have you. So look, the secret to engagement. Do you want to know what the secret to engagement is? Is anybody interested? We're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. So if you do want to know, you've only got a couple of minutes to find out. Yeah, Nat says yes. Okay, look, it really is very valuable. Like I said on the lead in the promos that we did, Chris and I normally charge between $15 and $20 million for this. So it's kind of, so get ready, write it down. The secret to engagement, it's challenge. The secret to engagement is challenge. If you've got learners that are checking out and bored and looking at their phone, it's because they're not challenged enough, they're bored. If you've got learners that are kicking off and getting frustrated and full of anxiety, it's because it's too difficult, it's too big a hill to climb, too steep a gradient, and they're frustrated. So it's the right kind of challenge, and the right kind of challenge is what Chris and I call a Goldilocks challenge. Any idea what a Goldilocks challenge is? What do you think a Goldilocks challenge is? Anybody know who Goldilocks is? Are we too old? A good one, says Nat.
I think there was some dwarfs involved. Yeah.
Well, Goldilocks went into the woods and she found a bed that wasn't too hard, wasn't too soft, it was just right. And some porridge, some oatmeal that wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, it was just right. So Goldilocks challenge is not too easy, not too hard, it's just right. Listen, let me share this guy with you. Let me tell you about this guy here. I'm just going to put him on the screen here real quick so you can have a look at him and what have you and share with him here. So this guy is one of Chris and I. Chris and I have worked with him quite a few times over the past few years, and on and off, probably for about 15 years, we've been helping him out. And again, he's starting his education business now, and he's really having some fantastic results. He was recently at Salon International in London, a huge big education event here in London, and he was there at Salon International on the Sunday, which is the biggest, busiest day. And he's a haircutter, haircutting specialist specialist, and he was telling me a story about a class, a group of learners that were wanting to get over their anxiety and their challenge with curly hair. There's this big thing now for cutting curly hair and specializing in cutting curly hair. And he told me a story which I want to share with you because it really makes a difference and it shows what you can do. They'd had educators in before, they had teachers in before, but they still couldn't get over the barrier, this kind of anxiety and this problem they had with curly hair and being frightened of curly hair. So he went in there and rather than giving them content, and this is the next nugget that we want to share with you, rather than giving them content, he wanted to share with them a problem solving activity. So look, sometimes content doesn't cut it. It's not enough. The great haircut that you designed, the system of sections, the methodology is not enough. Sometimes we need a problem solving activity. His activity was really simple. He put two curly mannequins in the front of the class. He split the class up into two groups and he gave them a pair of shears but no comb. He said, when the music starts, I want you to start cutting pieces of hair away and I want the hair cutting to be in tempo with the music. And so he played some slow, gentle music and they started tipping away and getting a little timid with it. He said, when the music changes, I want you to swap and give the shears to somebody else, but keep up with the tempo of the music. He switched the music. Now the music got a little bit faster. Someone changed their shears and they started snipping away. A few minutes later, the music changed again. The shears changed hands and the tempo of the music went up. It went a little bit faster, a little bit more energized. Pretty soon, people were swapping shears and they were diving into their hair and they didn't have time to worry about fear and anxiety and all these kind of stories they were telling themselves. They were having fun with the music and started to create a shape. He called time on the activity and said, that's it, we need to stop. And they said, no, we need to keep going because we're on the brink of creating an amazing shape together. So he let them go. He let them go for a few more minutes. And in 10 minutes time, to the sound of this amazing music, they created these beautiful shapes in this curly hair, all through creating an activity that solved their problem. Their problem wasn't the method and the technique and the sections about curly hair. Their problem was just getting over their hang-ups about letting all that go and cutting little bits of hair off and seeing what happened and having fun and letting your creative spirit come through. They had a barrier. So the most effective teaching wasn't teaching at all. The most effective teaching was creating a problem-solving activity that allowed them to get themselves over the barrier. Does that make sense? The feedback that he got was, after 5 or 6 curly haircutting classes, this is the only one that's made a difference. This is the only one that's allowed us to get the results that we're looking for. You see, now they were over their barrier. Now they could figure everything out for themselves. Does this making sense, my friends? Sometimes it's not about the content. It's about the barrier that's in the way and what activity can you create that will help them solve the problem and get the result that they're looking for. Is this making sense, everybody? All good? Yeah, fantastic. It was a good one, Nat. Yeah,
I love that
great.
story, Chris. That was an amazing one. And so here's what we want to do with you is that, we've been talking about so here the Teach and Lead is really the program that we've on. So I want you to write this down, post it in here. Just put down January 2025, write that into the chat bar. Because that's when our program is going to start here. So the reality is, when Chris and I started about this program, we wanted to put together is how can we help support the industry who, all of you support other people. We always talk about life force particles. They can take the life force particles out of you. They sort of, I'm not calling drain you, but you're giving all the time. What are you doing to get back? Because here's the reality. I saw this, one of our teachers, Blair Singer, and I remember this to this day, that he wrote on a flip chart, if you're not training, you don't deserve to stand on a stage. So in other words, if you're not learning more about what you're doing in the changing times, you don't deserve to stand on a stage. And that's stuck with Chris and I forever. And it helped us to make sure that we're training ourselves all the time. And that's what we want to do, is to be able to help to give back and get you back in. So you're not doing it on your own. You are making sure that you're having a transformation, and you're allowed to share your wins within the team, within the community, and have the community give back to you. So the reality is this, is if you want to secure your spot in this program, and I want Marjorie's going to put in just a link into our onto our chat bar right now. It'll give you a link to it that will secure your spot. So here's what I want to tell it. I want to say to you is it starts in January, but if you want to secure your spot in this, you just have to go to this site, and this will secure your link, secure your spot in our small group that we want to have in the 6-month course. And the reality is this is this it doesn't mean you'll if you go to that link, it'll tell you what to do, it'll tell you what the cost is. You can secure your spot in there, and it won't you won't that will secure your spot, but no charges will be put on until we start the program. And here's the other great news on this, so that we also have what we got on anybody who joins in this course will get what we call a founder's rate. And what that means is Chris and I have plans for not only this program, but an extended version that's going to happen down the line. And we'll have other programs. If you're in the founder's rate, that rate will secure you this price, regardless of what we do and what the rates go to in the future. You'll always get that rate. Now, you can go there and get that on. And I will say to you this: I know that that a lot of you stick around. You stuck around to the end, and I know that you want to be able to find out what is this bonus that we have. So I'm going to throw that back to Mr. Moody, and you can chat about what is this bonus that we have for everybody.
Yeah, take out your phones because you're going to need your cameras. If you're watching this on your phone, Nicole, I think you might be watching on your phone, so you might just want to take a screenshot of it, and then you can use the QR code later and what have you. But we've put together a PDF, and it covers some of the nuggets that we've talked about today, but something a little bit, something else as well. So it's a very simple, I think it's a 2-page PDF, that's all. So it should be attached to that QR code now. You can scan that QR code and download that. And again, it's just kind of getting us to think about how we deliver our education in a slightly different way. Look, a quick story before we wrap up. By the way, get this QR code downloaded, then sign up for Teach and Lead. Chris and I have got about another 10 minutes left in our diaries before we have to jump onto the next call. So we are going to wrap this up soon. But if you do want to hang out and you want to do a quick Q&A with us, if you've got a question you want to ask us about Teach and Lead, about anything that we've talked about today, about teaching in general, again, as a bonus, if you're watching this live, this won't be available on the recording. But if you want to ask us any question at all, there's nothing off limits. We're happy to do a little bit of coaching with you right now as well. But this is, again, a bonus for you for staying on board. This won't be on the recording and what have you, but yeah, just either unmute yourself and ask us or type something in the comment box. But before we get into that, the final thing that we want to say is, look, I've just been at Salon International, this big event. I've been hosting this stage with lots of educators coming on and lots of people talking about it, and they were all saying the same thing. They were all saying it's changing so much, nobody's interested anymore, nobody's got an attention span, nobody's got any focus, nobody can focus in on anything. And there was all this BS coming out about people's attention span is only 7 seconds now. By the way, that's all complete BS. It's just an internet myth. And if you come on Teach and Lead, we'll tell you where that internet myth came from, and we'll tell you what the truth behind it is. But the reality is, everybody thinks that no one has any attention anymore. It's not true. If that was true, then Marvel Studios wouldn't be making 3-hour movies anymore, and kids wouldn't be starving to death in their rooms because they've spent the last 10 hours on Call of Duty on PS5. So they do have a lot of attention span. Here's the challenge. The challenge is that we're getting to a point where new learners are more discerning. And it's not that they have a lack of focus, they have a lack of tolerance for boring stuff. If your stuff is boring and the way that you're delivering it is boring, they're going to check out. They're not like Chris and I that belong to a generation that we sit there on the front row politely nodding while dying inside of boredom, but we stick it out because that was the polite thing to do. No, now they just put their hand up and say, this is crap, I'm off. And they leave. That's it. So, my friends, you can definitely keep them engaged, but your stuff has to be different to how it was in 1982. Because if you're still doing that stuff, and a lot of people are, it's over. Okay, so that's my rant finished. Okay, Chris, I'm done now.
Well, I think it's now, I don't know what time it is for you, but it's still a little too early for me for wine. But
Yep.
I've still got my tea going, so I'll gladly stay on. And listen, so if anybody's got any questions, you can just take yourself off mute, depending on which courtyard you're in.
Yeah, and if you
And
are watching this on a recording, by the way, just to let you know, I'm really sorry this won't be on the recording. This is only on the live thing. So listen, thanks for watching. If you're watching the recording, sign up to Teach and Lead. If you have any questions, just message Chris and I will help you out. Thanks for watching.